I've got some slides here. I think it's obligatory to go over my career path and try and show some pictures and put in words what I've done and how I've gotten here, just to give the hope that it inspires you or gives you some ideas around the biomedical field. I will then sort of focus in about some of the evolving options that are available in and around southeast Queensland, and then some of the impact of the latest advances hitting our field. So I think most people heading into their career or looking back at their career would all agree that it's largely unplanned. You do go between different opportunities, and I think being open to opportunities is a key takeaway from today. I mean, I can summarize my career in saying that I've worked in recombinant proteins and in the development and the manufacturing of processes supporting those. I've flipped between academia and industry. I did start out as a student and having lively days lying on the grass. But through the summers, I took the opportunity to do internships. So I was at Hughes and worked down at CSL. One was drinking beer and tasting and analysing beer, which was probably more fun. The other one was working with a chromatography system and working on separation of plasma proteins. But they all contributed. They all gave me good insights and good connections. And in real estate, it's location, location, location. I think in career path, it's connection. It is about meeting some key people and peoples. In my case, it's been Professor Peter Gray, who was a professor of the biotech degree, and he had, through his connections, one graduate of the class each year got to go over to the US and work at Merck. So I was over there for 5 years at West Point, Pennsylvania. This was a large site. Oops. So we were in the building 17, so it was about a $700 million building in today's terms. So it was a manufacturing and process development building all in one. And in hindsight, I was just going with the blows, but it was fantastic because it just exposed me to good manufacturing practices involved. You saw the latest and greatest equipment. It was making material that was going into clinical trials. You were then handing off to manufacturing, and basically they just kept throwing a lot of responsibility at you. And so got to work with large equipment. We just started to. There was a lot of stainless steel. I was also working on the lab bench with a lot of small 2-liter stainless glass bioreactors, but also moving into the pilot plant. But right about that time, we also started to really embrace single use. And so what was lovely at the time was, if this would have been the expansion bioreactor, this is a 300-liter, but think of that as a 30-liter, you could have all of that, or you could just have that. So there's a lot of reason why we moved to single use. It really simplifies things. And this was a site of sort of 17,000, but I was involved in a team of maybe, of about 250 in the development team. Coming back to Australia, I sort of switched to academia, I guess. I'm working at the University of Queensland. Professor Peter Gray was starting up the institute, and as soon as he heard that I had this sort of experience from industry, we said, "Oh, come on, we're setting up." So I got to set up what is a sort of a small service facility up to sort of 50-liter scale of running bioreactors and making recombinant proteins and purifying them. Working with a team, and it's a smaller team, but hands-on and doing more of the development and the cell line development, working with earlier stage customers. But being open to opportunity, around about that time, there was a bunch of money coming together from local government and federal government to build a facility. It's part of this footprint. It's the Patheon facility by Thermo Fisher right behind us. So I got involved with the design and the build of that facility, and then transitioned really from being a sort of an individual contributor to being more of a manager role. And so that was a distinct change sort of in my career, but a lovely change. And I think Dan was just sort of saying it's not about what's in for your career. You start to realise that it's about how you can lift everyone up and bring everyone along for the role. But lovely to work there. I had the opportunity then to go back over to the US, do another 4 years over there, working in a manufacturing facility. Times changed. We're now using small little multi-bioreactor, plastic bioreactors. But a lot of what we're doing in the development, and this is still chromatography systems and a 3 centimeter column, and you're just scaling up, and you're going to a 60 centimeter column or an 80 centimeter column, but it's the same equipment, just scaled in size. So a lot of my career has really been working on how to scale up processes and move them to manufacturing. And so coming back, just before 2020 in COVID, which was kind of fortuitous, ended up in Brisbane again, this time working for a company called Therapeutic Innovation Australia. I'm a director for strategic development. And basically, TIA takes funds from the Department of Education and puts it into research infrastructure to help early stage researchers get access to the expertise and equipment they don't have. And we try and focus that around these sort of 4 pillar modalities of cell and gene, RNA products, biologics, and small molecules. So it's a smaller team of around about 6 people, but it provides funding to the National Biologics Facility. I'm also a director there, working again back where I was back previously, and our whole reason for being is to really try and help researchers go from a great idea in the lab, and then how do you sort of strategically and methodically bring that through clinical design and preclinical and get to the GMP level where you start making that first batch to go into humans and then hand off to CDMOs, which Kim is about to talk about after this. So that's, and so now I do a bit of both and a bit of sort of consulting. So I think it's, embrace the fact that your career will move around, and it really is the journey and just picking up skills as you go along. I think that's that. I want to then sort of switch gears. So biomedical opportunities in southeast Queensland. Now, the problem with trying to put this onto one slide is obviously I leave things out, so I hope people don't feel bad. But from the point of view of biomed, the work that we do, there is a lot of opportunities within universities. So these can be service-based facilities like the National Biologics Facility I was just talking about. Universities are always putting out spin-out companies, small researchers who have gotten together some funding and they want to try and take it to the proof of concept or the next stage. So they're always looking for sort of biotech skills, working in clinical trial sites, tech transfer offices, UniQuest. These research groups always are getting funding for CRCs or in the Smart CRC there's a $280 million cell therapy large project that just got up. And then from a spin-out point of view, Vice Bio is doing the molecular clamp vaccine over at UQ, and Fenza is based here at Tri, working with spider proteins, taking those into clinical trials. Cytef is T-cell or CAR T-cells at QIMR, and Favero also over there at QIMR. There's roles within medical research institutes, so MARTA, QIMR, Tri, and also working in Queensland Health at Metro South and North. And precinct, so there's a lot going on. So we're in the Boggo Road precinct, Hurston's across the river, this knowledge corridor, and then extending down to Gold Coast. So with the universities in Griffith, there's a lot of activity happening down there. One sort of quick plug is just to say there will be roles and there will be opportunities with something that's happening right here at Tri. And so this is PM1, the UQ Bioproduction Hub. So this is about taking 3 existing service facilities within the University of Queensland, BASE doing mRNA, PEF doing expression of protein, but from yeast and microbial and insect, and the National Biologics Facility doing mammalian-based proteins, and then bringing those together, co-locating them here to build through sort of put in place a pilot scale manufacturing up to around 50 litres across these different modalities. And it's really about putting those skill sets together that we know works well with MBF, but applying it across mRNA and other systems. So this is something that this is the sort of thing that's cooking up in Queensland and happening. So you just got to have an ear to the ground. And then from an industry point of view, from a contract manufacturing organization, so I left the country and went to the US to get my experience. I think a fantastic thing that's happening now is there is industry happening here in Australia, in Queensland, in terms of doing mammalian cell expression-based CDMO, with Thermo Fisher and Patheon. TM at Tri, Glenda just mentioned, so that will be a GMP compliant facility doing operations. There's QGen doing cell therapies. Southern RNA is setting up mRNA at 8 Mile Plains and down on the Gold Coast. There are private companies, private biotech companies or listed companies. We all know Vaxxus, Sanofi with the Translational Science Hub, Servitus, who are doing microbial or microbiome, and so on. There's a lot of different things. There's suppliers from the people who are distributing today to the people who make the equipment that we use in our biotech labs. They have sales, but they also have technical roles and people, how you can help groups with service roles to try and drive things forward. So there's a lot of opportunities, and then it continues on into labs that support sort of the biotech area. And medtech, I'm not an expert, but there's, again, a lot of different options in and around with smaller companies. Some of these are in stealth, but a lot of them are doing really great things around with regards to sort of expanded opportunities. And final sort of slide is really just to talk about, well, that's great, Ben, that's what you did 20 years ago, but it is a different scene right now. And in some ways, AI and some of the points I'm going to talk to on this slide, they are game changers, but they are also just tools, and they're tools that are going to help us expand. And I think what we really see with AI and machine learning is it's just, it's driving it's moving things much faster. And so on the early stage, drug discovery, access to really large data sets, sort of multiplexing of biomarker discovery and how we can sort of really drive diagnostics to get advanced understandings of disease states. So how we sort of fill the pipeline, as it were, that's really going a lot faster. And that explosion of data also comes across into how we do the manufacturing side. And so one thing that is also different, and where I started off and done a lot of large molecule biomanufacturing, a lot of the people that I worked with originally back at Merck, they've all moved into sort of cell therapies. And now in my role with TIA, I see a lot of people working with mRNA. So there are newer approaches and modalities to try and drive improvements to human health. And so precision medicine is another one, just our explosion of knowledge and how we can drive, personalized treatments to sort of single people or a single family in a genetic tree. It also changes the fact of you maybe don't want a 2,000-litre bioreactor to make that drug substance. You might actually need a small hollow fibre filter, and you might not need it in the manufacturing facility here in Brisbane. You might actually need it for the patient who's up in Townsville or in Birdsville. So just trying to think about where things go. I think the future is we're going to have to try and work out how to do things faster, smaller, and more mobile. And then another thing that really sort of is unlocking things, and you'll see a lot of, with Queensland government initiatives, PsiQuantum building out at the airport, $1 billion quantum computer. So this is another one that is just enabling AI and big data. So what does this all mean? I think it's, in my mind, just we will continue to see roles change and how we use these tools. I don't think it specifically is driving away the number of jobs, but it is interesting to sort of keep these in mind and just be aware that the career and the roles that I might have taken or others might have taken, there will be different opportunities and different sort of career paths based on our better understanding and the better challenges being thrown at us about how we translate biotech. So, thank you.